Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. So in the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with the feature writer at The Eye, James Rampton, and the former Conservative Special Advisor, Anita Boateng. Lovely to see you both. Welcome. So, as ever, let's take a look at the front pages. A spoiler alert. Pause. Some of the front pages have the Strictly result. You might have it on pause yourself, you might be out. Just turn away briefly. Anyway, to The Observer, which does not. It leads with a feature on Wes Streeting about his name being bandied around, of course, to be Labour's next leader. The health minister says Sir Keir has his full support, but the paper reports Streeting also hasn't ruled himself out to be the next Prime Minister. The Sun reports EastEnders actress Jacqueline Jossa has been sent death threats on social media. The Telegraph writes Labour plans to crack down on parking spaces. Councils will be required to impose sweeping restrictions to limit the number of car park spaces on new housing developments. The Mail on Sunday reports that a pub landlord in the Chancellor's local area has barred Rachel Reeves from enjoying a festive pint there because of her tax hikes. We will show you that very shortly. So let's bring in our guests then, James Rampton, Anita Boateng. Lovely to see you both. There's not a great deal of Epstein on the front pages, but a little bit on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. And this is really about, you know, how Prince Andrew, as he was then, brought Ghislaine Maxwell almost into the fold of the royal family in British society, really.
Yeah, and I think there is an element of surprise in that Sandringham is quite a kind of secluded, quite private place and is very much part of the kind of, you know, sort of retreat for the royals. And so I think that shows a degree of, like, intimacy, which we all knew, right? So this is stuff that just visually confirms what we all know, although obviously all the redactions lend an element of cloak and dagger, an element of perhaps conspiracy, but certainly an element of, like, underhanded behaviour. And I really don't think that formerly Prince Andrew Mountbatten has been helped by the quote from a friend, who I rather hope is a former friend, who said, "We don't see what the problem is, it's just hijinks at a party, he's fully clothed." Which is not something that's ever been said about me.
Is this the photograph of him lying on the knees of...
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
those will not be Epstein girls, those will be invited guests to Sandringham. And in a sense, the presumption is that it's something that it isn't at that point, isn't it? So this is the problem of releasing stuff without context, isn't it? Which is this massive dump from the DOJ in America, the Justice Department.
It is indeed the problem. However, I do think there's a good angle in this piece, that this idea that Epstein and Maxwell, convicted sex trafficker, were allowed into the very heart of the British establishment. The salon where this photo was taken is where the royal family have afternoon tea on Christmas Eve and where they gather to watch the monarch's Christmas message on Christmas afternoon. So those are very kind of sacrosanct rituals that the royal family have. And this place was... invaded is perhaps the wrong word, but certainly sullied by the presence of these two vile people. And so I do think there's a good angle there, that Prince Andrew was just incredibly naive. And in fact, Andrew Lowney, who's a biographer of Andrew, said they were given the opportunity to go anywhere, and Andrew appears to have been too stupid to notice he was being taken advantage of in this way.
I think I'm a bit cynical whether it was all naivety, actually, and whether he did actually understand and was clearly quite sort of taken in and allured by some elements of, you know, Epstein's lifestyle. I just can't see a reason why you would want to be around someone otherwise. And, yeah, no, I certainly hope that the photos are of, you know, just the regular people that would be at Sandringham and nothing else has gone on. But I do think that all of this has just left such a dark and, I think, quite deep stain on not just on the royal family, but, like, particularly, like, how we exist as a society and what we question and what we don't.
Yes, and just quickly, a lot of I mean, last night I watched endlessly, but a lot of the front loading was of Bill Clinton, and his spokesperson put out a very strong message. You know, the White House hasn't been hiding these files for months, only to dump them late on a Friday night to protect Bill Clinton. And then they go on to say there are two types of people here. The first group knew nothing and cut Epstein off before his crimes came to light. The second group continued relationships with him after we're in the first, making it absolutely clear that it's only those who continued after the two indictments against him. You know, the first one where he seemed to get off quite lightly, and the 2019 one where ultimately he killed himself. So, you know, that's as far as they're concerned, the dividing line.
And it would play into this perhaps conspiracy theory or perhaps totally legitimate idea that it's a way of obfuscating the whole thing to protect President Trump. You know, front-load it with Clinton, a Democrat, not even liked by many Democrats anymore, but who is somebody who can take all the limelight away from Trump. There are no photos of Trump in person. There's one tiny one of a photo of him in a drawer. But the idea then that you've got Mick Jagger, you've got Kevin Spacey, you've got Michael Jackson, all people who deny anything wrong, does give you the impression that it may be a distraction from Trump.
So this photo, for example, Michael Jackson, Bill Clinton and Diana Ross, you know, again, with redacted faces. This is a publicly available image, and it turns out that the redacted faces are the children of Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. So this is the problem of this redaction again, isn't it?
Yes, although, I mean, with this photo, I mean, it's hard to tell, but they do like very, very small people, well, particularly those two, so you might have a guess. But I see your point. I think there really is a problem with the lack of context with this, and that's always the case. They're investigatory files. There's a reason why we don't all get given full investigatory files when there's a criminal case. But I do agree with you that this is obscured more than enlightened.
Yeah. Shall we, there we go, Andrew took Ghislaine Maxwell to Sandringham, that's the headline. But, you know, America, the UK, trawling through what we've learnt from these files, and there's a lot more still to come, is the point, isn't it? Daily Mail, no, sorry, apologies, the Mail on Sunday. You're barred, Rachel. Rachel Reeves has been barred from her local pub because of her crippling tax rises, bringing the hospitality industry to its knees. There you go. So why have business rates for pubs effectively changed? What's going on here?
Yeah, so there was transitional business rates relief that was brought in, particularly during COVID. Everyone knows that the publicans had an awful, awful time. And actually, like pubs, the rate in which pubs have been closing in recent years is sort of around kind of 400 a week. I mean, it's extraordinary numbers. And as, you know, our use and our connection to our local communities continues to erode, I think that it is a great loss. And so Rachel Reeves is, you know, a classic, you know, doorstep journalism here. They've gone to her local publican and said, is she barred from here? And he said, of course she is. And so I think there have been, you know, the tax rises that are being proposed, which are ostensibly to help the high street, but actually are going to have huge, huge, huge ramifications for lots of different sectors, particularly pubs as well. I think it's actually going to be enormously difficult. And I think we haven't really hit the consequences of that change. Certainly not. Like, if we add in things like national insurance, the increase particularly on the amount it costs to hire someone very young, all of these things are going to bleed through to employment figures and particularly, potentially, to inflation as well. Yeah,
inflation, growth, employment. I mean, do you see these impacts as well?
Absolutely. I think it's a very clever story from the Mail on Sunday because everyone loves their local pub. It's something everyone can relate to, and they can all, as we're all suffering economically, put ourselves into the shoes of the landlord, Martin Knowles, here and say, get out my pub, which is what he's allegedly going to say to Rachel Reeves. So I think it's a really good human way of bringing this story to life. And it does, as you rightly point out, underline the huge financial impact on the hospitality industry.
Yeah, the Chancellor posed with Mr Knowles in his pub last July. I need to go to page 4 to find out if she's actually a regular and will be deeply hurt by this. But anyway, let's go to the Sunday Telegraph, shall we? James, why don't you pick up on this one? This is effectively, you're not going to get as many parking spaces in new developments, according to the government.
Absolutely. And they're saying if you are building a new build, you will not be allowed to, as you previously could, construct lots and lots of parking spaces. They will be very much restricted. But to me, that is pretty much a stupid idea because it will just lead to illegal parking. People are not going to avoid buying cars because of this. Also, many of the new builds will be in places with no access to public transport. So how do you get about? You will have to find a way of putting your car somewhere, and it may well not be a legal place because you can't get on a bus, you can't get on a bike, you can't get on a train. You're stuck in the middle of nowhere, so you have to use your car. And yes, we all understand the damage that cars can do to the environment, but I really don't think this is the way of tackling that problem.
Let's go to the Observer, shall we? Wes Streeting on the front page. He is the talk of the town in the Christmas parties, apparently, around Westminster. I wonder why anyone would want to be PM. Quite cleverly invited on the Observer Walk. where I read that vast oaks and beeches tower above us. Anyway, what more detail is actually in this very long double-page spread about his ambitions or lack thereof?
Yes, I mean, one thing I'm glad about is it's a wonderful profile of Hainault Forest, which is a forest near where I grew up. So I spent a lot of time, I'm from this constituency where Wes is an
Good
MP.
to know.
And so I love that. Do give it a wonder. It's a lovely place outside London. It doesn't feel at all like you're in London.
I'll go there, that's good tip,
It's
yes.
beautiful. I think that it's funny. He says two things that really struck me. One, he says it's water under the bridge, the drive-by shooting from Number 10. I think only in the sense that he's lurking under the bridge, kind of waiting to...
Like a troll.
And push Keir Starmer or pull Keir Starmer under. So I thought that was quite a funny way of phrasing his apparent reconciliation with Number 10 after that operation. And then he says, you know, the closer I get to the job, the more I wonder why anyone would want it. That doesn't mean he's not wanting it. You know, he just thinks I'm also an insane person for wanting the job. What's really struck me about this piece is that it's a classic. I'm pivoting for the leadership, talking about his upbringing, all the rest of it. But also, it almost sounds like he's a sort of, I don't know, a commentator on politics. There's very little here about his achievements. There's very little here about his vision.
Well, he's in the middle of a doctor's
transforming.
strike. That's a tricky point, isn't it?
But I do wonder whether his communication abilities are obscuring his lack of, like, actual
But
ideas
surely
of
the
reform
first
and
stage
zeal.
is to get to know him. You know, for example, his mother was only 18 when she became pregnant. He talks about being gay and found it hard to reconcile with his Christianity. He'd like to get married and talks about the difficulty of adopting children when you do the job that he does. So this introduces him to us, does it not?
I guess, I mean, maybe I'm a total weirdo because I knew all of this stuff already. But
You're a weirdo, yeah.
But I think the point is that I think that he's in charge of one of the most important departments in government. And what you don't hear is the kind of thing that you might hear from a Shabana Mahmood, which is ideas.
OK, very quickly, James, apologies.
Well, I agree. I think it's clearly a pitch for the leadership because we're hearing all about his background. You remember Bill Clinton campaigned on, you know, being the man from Little Rock, Arkansas, and people related to that idea from a very humble background. But I love the idea that he says he doesn't want to add to the silly soap opera we've had to deal with in the last few months. I mean, he's the panto dame in it all, isn't he? I mean, he's the one who's been attracting all this attention because of allegedly ill-advised things that have been said. So he's playing a canny game, but, you know, these denials are no more plausible than Michael Heseltine's were when he said he wasn't going to stand against Mrs Thatcher.
Yeah,
That
I'm just still lost on the beach trees, to be fair.
I'm going tomorrow.
Yes,
the Hainault
exactly.
Forest, it looks great.
We'll all be there. See you there. Lots more stuff to come. Stay there, both of you, James, Anita. We will be discussing more, including this on the front page of The Telegraph. The majority of Jews do not feel safe in Britain. That and plenty more, of course.
Right, ready?
Yep. Yes.
There's nothing in it.
I'm furious about this joke. Brace yourself. What kind of music do elves enjoy? Rap.
What does Christmas mean to you, Anna?
Kids and chaos. Loved ones.
Plenty of food and wine.
To go home to Australia to be with my family.
Christmas lion. The early starts have been quite a lot.
Goodness.
What do you call a snowman's temper tantrum? A meltdown.
It's been with us at Sky News this year. Happy Christmas.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Big Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway. Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
I'm Cordelia Lynch, Sky's Asia correspondent, based here in Bangkok.
The only way they'll allow elections is if I'm inside jail or killed.
I'm James Matthews, and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. Mr. Musk, has your ignorance and ego cost Ukrainian lives? Free, wherever you get your news.
I'm Ivor Bennett, Sky's Moscow correspondent.
Why do you support Vladimir Putin, Mr. Seagal? I'm Conor Gillis, Sky's Scotland correspondent. Sky News, the full story first.
about being a Sky News journalist. Hi, darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
Trauma for everyone who witnessed what happened here hasn't gone away.
Devastation.
Greg Milam, Sky News, Manchester.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Big Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway. Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is, why it hasn't been stopped.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter? We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to. Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics.
I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Ridge and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again. Feature writer at The Eye, James Rampton, and the former Conservative Special Advisor, Anita Boateng. Welcome back to both of you. So, front page, James, of the Sunday Telegraph, really after the Bondi attack, no doubt. This report that the majority of Jews do not feel safe in Britain.
Yeah, I mean, I feel this is a really shocking story. The polling suggests that now 61% of the Jewish community in this country are considering moving abroad, and that's up by 11% from last year, and that's a huge leap. And, of course, not only the shocking events on Bondi, but the heinous attack on the Heaton Park Synagogue in Manchester. You know, there are all these events that are leading people, quite understandably, within that community to say, I'm really not safe here. You know, there are lots and lots of people on the streets who are shouting the most appalling things at them. Some people I know are, you know, not wearing their yarmulkes. They are very wary of where they go. The schools are protected by very heavy security, and the synagogues. And you think that's really a terrible life to live.
But are we being a more divisive society in every way,
yes,
against every creed, culture, colour?
Yeah.
I mean, is that? I mean, Anita, I don't know if you feel that or not. I mean,
I think there has been like coarsening in public of public discussion, but I also think there's something peculiar. In this instance of, you know, the experience of Jews in a situation which is to do with like politics, right? This is not about their values, right? This is not about any policy that they are making or creating. This is about a government in another country and its conduct. And the fact that they are being held accountable for that is quite different, I think, to the kinds of racism or anti-Semitic or anti-immigrant feeling that you might experience in the UK. So I do find it, I find it deeply sad because when you're talking about 51% of people, Jews, feeling like they do not have a long-term future in the UK, that says that something has gone deeply wrong with our society and our ability to be compassionate towards one another and to have really strongly held political views in ways that do not feel personal to a particular creed or colour.
OK, we're going to pivot, if you don't mind, and it comes with a spoiler alert. Going to leave you a little pause, so press the mute button quickly and just shut your eyes. The Sun on Sunday has the winner of Strictly, but we need to remember also this is the bowing out of these long-term presenters, isn't it? Which is almost a bigger deal right now.
It's a huge story. Perhaps the hugest story of all is mentioned on the front of the Sun, is that the Queen sent a message via Craig Revel-Horwood, talking of panto dames. No, he's a panto villain, actually. But a really effusive and quite thoughtful message about how the show is about friendship more than it's about dancing. And I thought that was a lovely thing to say because, you know, this friendship between Tess Daly and Claudia Winkleman is potentially quite unlikely. Claudia, Cambridge graduate, Tess was a model. They come from very different backgrounds, but they really do have a bond, and I think people will miss that. But as for Karen winning, I'm absolutely delighted. We're talking about, you know, Wes Streeting's story. She has a great story, very, very shy child, has, I think, a curvature of the spine, went on to win the most caps ever for an England Lioness, and then to win Strictly. I mean, now the sky's the limit. She can, you know, shoot to score wherever she wants now.
And then a picture on the front page of the Sunday Mirror, which is Prince George visiting the homeless shelter where Diana also took his father, Prince William.
Yes, another kind of lovely story of kindness and compassion this Christmas, which is about Prince George. Yes, of course, he was shown around the passage in London, where Prince William was taken right back in 1993. So it was a really kind of poignant moment, and you can tell how seriously that he's taking it, and how it's just at a time of Christmas, it's really important that we all show love to our communities, and I think bringing him back was not just a really astute move, I think a really important move for him to understand really what his family was really about, and for a very long time, or certainly what his grandmother was about.
Anita, James, for this hour, thank you both very much indeed. See you for more at 11:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report. Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can